I'm 76 years old, and I need to tell you something before you waste the next 50 years like I did. For half a century, I was the perfect wife. Perfect. I said the right things. I laughed at the right times. I made myself smaller so someone else could feel bigger. And you know what I got for it? Nothing. Not gratitude, not love, not even recognition. I got a life I don't recognize, and a woman in the mirror I've never met. If you're molding yourself right now, editing your opinions, swallowing your words, shrinking your dreams to fit someone else's idea of who you should be, listen to me. You think you're building a marriage. You're not. You're erasing yourself one compromise at a time. And here's the part nobody tells you. You can't get those years back. You can't unlose yourself. But you still have time to stop. I didn't. My name is Margaret. I met my husband Robert I was 23. He was 28. Confident, had opinions about everything, politics, music, how the house should look, what we'd eat for dinner. And I was flexible. That's what I told myself. Flexible, easygoing, a good partner. Within 6 months of marriage, I'd stopped painting. Robert didn't say I had to stop. He just made small comments. You're spending a lot of time on that. We could use the garage for storage. Is that really going somewhere? So I stopped. I was being reasonable. By year 2, I'd learned which opinions to keep to myself. Robert's friends would come over, and they'd talk about Vietnam, about Nixon, about the world falling apart. I had thoughts, strong ones, but if I shared them and Robert disagreed, he'd correct me in front of everyone, not meanly, just firmly, like a teacher with a student who got the answer wrong. So I stopped sharing. By year 5, I'd figured out the formula. Anticipate what he needs before he asks. Keep the house exactly how he likes it. Manage my emotions so his day stays smooth. Laugh at his jokes. Support his career. Be the woman in the background of his success story. And it worked. We had a good marriage. Everyone said so. But here's what I need you to understand, and this is where it gets complicated. I didn't hate my life. I wasn't miserable every day. There were good moments, holidays, vacations, quiet evenings, but I was disappearing, slowly, like a photograph left in the sun. And the worst part, I didn't even notice, because when you lose yourself gradually, one tiny compromise at a time, there's no dramatic moment where you realize it's happening. You just wake up one day, 50 years later, and you don't know who you are anymore. You don't even know what you like. You want to know what the perfect wife looks like? She wakes up before her husband and makes coffee exactly how he likes it. She doesn't complain when he changes plans last minute because his needs are more important. She pretends not to notice when he dismisses her ideas in front of others. She manages the entire household, bills, appointments, social calendar, his mother's birthday, the kids, everything, and makes it look effortless. She never says, "I'm tired." She never says, "What about what I want?" She never says, "You hurt me," because perfect wives don't have needs. They meet them. I became an expert at reading Robert's moods. I could tell by the way he opened the front door after work, whether it was a good day or a bad day. Good day meant I could talk about my day. Bad day meant I stayed quiet, made his favorite dinner, gave him space. I learned to translate myself. If I wanted to visit my sister in Colorado, I didn't say I want to go. I said, "Your mom mentioned you need a break. Maybe I could visit Jane so you can have the house to yourself for a week." I made my desires sound like I was doing him a favor. Here's the thing, and this is what messes with your head. It wasn't all manipulation on his part. Robert wasn't a monster. He wasn't abusive. He would have been shocked to hear that I felt erased. In his mind, we had a partnership. A traditional one, sure, but a partnership, and that's the trap. Because if your husband isn't evil, if there's no villain to point to, how do you explain that you're disappearing? How do you say I'm losing myself when he'd respond, "What are you talking about? You have everything you need." And the worst part, sometimes I agreed with him. Sometimes I thought I was being ungrateful, dramatic, selfish. I had a nice home, financial security, a husband who didn't cheat or hit me. What right did I have to feel empty? So I pushed it down for decades. And you know what happens when you push feelings down for decades? They don't disappear. They fossilize. They become part of your skeleton. You carry them in your bones. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you said what you actually wanted without softening it, without explaining it, without making it easier for someone else to say no? When was the last time you took up space without apologizing for it? If you can't remember, you're already on the path I walked. Here's what I learned too late. There's a difference between compromise and erasure. Compromise is, I want Italian, you want Chinese, we get Thai. Erasure is, I'll eat whatever you want, I don't care, you decide. Compromise is, I need alone time on Saturdays, you need quality time, we alternate. Erasure is, I don't really need anything, I'm fine, whatever makes you happy. You think you're being loving, you think you're being selfless, you're not. You're teaching people that your needs don't matter, and people believe what you teach them. I taught Robert for 50 years that I didn't have preferences, that I didn't need things, that I existed to support his life, not live my own. And he believed me. Why wouldn't he? And here's the brutal truth. You can't blame someone for believing the lie you've been telling them for decades. I wanted to be angry at Robert. I wanted to make him the villain, but how could I? I was the one who disappeared myself. I was the one who said I'm fine when I wasn't. I was the one who smiled through 50 years of slow suffocation. He didn't erase me. I erased myself, and I let him watch. Robert died 2 years ago. Sudden heart attack. 74 years old, gone in minutes. And you know what I felt? Grief, yes, of course. 52 years together, but also something I didn't expect, terror, because I didn't know who I was without him. The morning after his funeral, I woke up and thought, what do I want for breakfast? And I stood in my kitchen for 20 minutes, paralyzed, because I genuinely didn't know. I'd spent so long making what Robert wanted that I'd forgotten what I liked. Did I even like eggs? I didn't know. What kind of coffee did I prefer? I had no idea. I'd been making his blend for half a century. The grief I could have handled. That's normal, expected. But the emptiness, the realization that I'd spent 50 years building a life around someone else and never built one for myself, that broke me. I started finding things, small things. A box in the attic with my old paintings from before we got married. I sat on the attic floor, surrounded by canvases I'd done in my early 20s, and I didn't recognize the woman who painted them. She was bold, colorful. She had opinions in every brushstroke. What happened to her? I killed her. That's what happened. Not all at once. Just one small death at a time. One suppressed opinion. One abandoned hobby. One I'm fine when I wasn't. Death by 1,000 accommodations. I found a journal from 1975. There was an entry where I'd written about wanting to take a ceramics class. The next entry, 2 weeks later, said, Robert thinks it's impractical with the kids' schedules. He's probably right. He's probably right. That phrase appeared 63 times in that journal. I counted. 63 times I dismissed my own desires because someone else's opinion felt more valid than mine. And the worst part, Robert never demanded that. He never said, don't take the ceramics class. He just expressed a preference and I crumbled. I made myself small because I thought that's what love was. I was wrong. If you died tomorrow, would you be satisfied with the life you're living? Not the life you're planning to live someday. Not the life you'll live when things calm down. The life you're living right now, today. Would that be enough? Because here's what I know now. Later never comes. Someday is a lie you tell yourself to make today's compromise feel temporary. You think I'll stand up for myself next time. You think I'll pursue my dreams when the kids are older. You think I'll take that trip when we have more money. You think I'll figure out who I am when I have more time. And then 50 years pass. And you're standing in your kitchen at 76, trying to remember if you like eggs. Let me tell you what I wish someone had told me at 23. Your needs are not negotiable. Your identity is not a bargaining chip. Your voice is not a luxury. You matter because you exist. And a love that requires you to shrink is not love. It's a transaction. And you're paying with your soul. I paid for 50 years. The bill came due when Robert died, and I had nothing left. No hobbies, no opinions, no idea who I was. There's no refund policy on a wasted life. So here's what I'm doing now, at 76. I'm learning who I am. I started painting again. My hands shake, my vision's blurry, but I'm doing it because it's mine. I took that ceramics class 50 years late. I visited my sister for 3 weeks without asking permission. I joined a book club and argued for 45 minutes because I had opinions and I didn't soften them. And you know what? I'm real, for the first time in 50 years. But here's what haunts me. I didn't have to wait until he was gone. I could have done this at 30, at 50. I could have said I love you and I'm keeping myself. I thought love meant sacrifice. I didn't know it could mean partnership. Don't make my mistake. You still have time. Whatever you've compromised, whatever you've swallowed, you can stop today. You don't have to wait until you're 76 and alone. Start small. Say what you want for dinner tonight. Take 1 hour this week for yourself. Stop apologizing for existing. Tell someone, I love you and I'm keeping myself. And if they can't handle that, you've learned something important. I wasted 50 years being perfect. Perfect doesn't exist. Chasing it cost me everything. You don't get a do-over, but you get today. And that's enough to start finding yourself again. Don't wait. I'm 76 and I'm just beginning to live. You can start now.